Hey everybody, welcome into week 3 recap and analysis and week 4 preview for our scratch draft league that we have going on.
What up?
Sorry for the short notice and different time. I mentioned this last week that we were going to be doing it at a different time, but had no idea when it was going to happen. So most of you will be watching this on the flip side. So I guess we can go on ahead and get into it. I do have some things in the description down there. I do have one new thing. I'm now a brand ambassador for Free Spirits non-alcoholic replacements. So they've got a bourbon one, a gin, a tequila, and an Italian liqueur.
Ooh, fancy!
I feel like this stuff would be really good. It's got kind of a I'm gonna have James try them since they are completely non-alcoholic. He doesn't drink. And I think that
if they smell yucky, then I'm probably not going to like it anyways.
No, and see the bourbon one again is it reminds me of the experience, but it doesn't really taste like bourbon. So it doesn't have a whiskey, but it is a satisfactory replacement. And this is the Italian liqueur replacement is a very blood orange forward, but it's got cloves, cinnamon, kind of a vibe to it. It would.
Interesting.
Yeah. So anyhow, information for that is down in the description. You can always ask, but we won't spend too much time on that. Just wanted to mention it getting started there. Again, there is a lot of stuff in the description for you to check out. Cool Wick codes, Bowler's Mart link.
And you do have a code for Free Spirits as well, right? It's code Rosedal, I believe.
Yeah, Rosedal gets you 15% off. I've got that in the description as well as a link to go to the site if you're interested, if you want to check it out. If it's not your thing, that's cool. But there's a lot of people who drinking is not their thing. And this kind of, whether you don't drink and, want to enjoy something that just tastes good, or whether you do drink and want to cut back or quit or whatever else, but don't want to lose the experience, kind of meet you in the middle. So.
Yeah, there you go. So for me, I'll just stick to my homemade iced lattes, but
Yeah.
But that's just my 2 cents.
It's the pumpkin spice time of year now. We're getting close.
So I do. You had your time to talk about beverages. I'm gonna just get on a little soapbox for a second here. Pumpkin spice coffee is the most overrated garbage to have ever been invented by the beverage industry.
Because it's not really coffee.
It is only overshadowed in how much it is overrated by the existence of candy corn. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. We now resume our regularly scheduled programming.
Yeah, I feel like it shouldn't be branded as like a coffee drink. It just needs to be as like a specialty milk drink or something. But
specialty milk drink with coffee flavor. Yeah.
Anyway, the people came for bowling, so we will get to bowling now.
I guess so.
Yeah, it's not quite as interesting, but
I will say my prediction last week was scarily accurate. I think I said 22-10 by 40 points or less for total. And as you can see here up in the top, we lost 21-11 by 10 pence for series.
I think you even had it closer than that. I think you didn't say 40. You think you said 20. So your tolerance was 20. So you were
whatever. I figured it was going to be a really close, hard-fought match, and that's exactly what it ended up being. I guess I think we can talk about the bowling itself, and then there's definitely a lesson learned that we can touch on later on my side from a captain/lineup perspective. But I think overall from the matchups and everything, that kind of went about like we thought it would, realistically speaking, in terms of who did what. Noah, I think we mentioned last week, Noah's still kind of getting over some issues with his thumb. And so still a little tentative with that and just never really gotten a good rhythm. 550, definitely a down night for him, but he's going to be rebounding from that, and I have full expectation of it. Jaden had another really solid night. Game 3 has been a little bit of a bugaboo the last couple of weeks, but I'm sure she'll figure it out. And that duo that she's been throwing on the fresh is just an absolute chef's kiss. I really didn't feel like it felt like you bowled a lot more than 640, honestly.
Yes and no. I wasn't completely comfortable, and it was one of those nights where I can't really say that I bowled good, but I can't really say that I bowled bad, but I did definitely on the wrong side of like the breaks.
Yeah.
I think I got a couple of them, but that last game specifically really pissed me off because I felt like I had the front five, and realistically, I ended up with 80 in the fifth or something like that.
Yeah.
Strike, bone 9, strike, a 6-pin that I thought was 10 back, and then I had a 6-8 to follow that up. So just on the wrong side of the breaks.
Because of course, why would you get that break in that situation? But yeah.
But my roll was a little too heavy, and so it was making the ball too jumpy and cut too much. If I would have been throwing it better, it would have blended out the back end a little bit more. I think I would have gotten the hits.
Yeah, but I mean, even still, like 640 is nothing to turn your nose up at.
Yeah, if that's a bad night, again, if that's a bad night, I'll take that all year long.
Yeah, exactly. And then for myself, I finally missed a make, or did I miss any make? I don't think I missed any spares aside from splits.
I don't think so.
Yeah, no. Oh, that was week 2 where I chopped the 3-6. It was a little bit of kind of playing catch up type of night for me. I started in my top speed and went front 4 9-pin 9-pin, and after that second 9-pin, like I think I moved 3 or 4 boards for that second 9-pin, and it still just hooked a million. So I was like, okay, I need to find a different solution here, and I ended up moving probably close to 20, 22, 25 boards with my feet over the course of the night. I started standing like close to the big dot with my top speed on the dead fresh, like in practice. And then I was looking like 26 or 27 with my NV tour by the end of game 3. So it was really didn't have that many awful shots from an execution perspective. It was just I had 1 or 2 shots each game that hooked out of what felt like nowhere because I missed a move. And I mean, I think we kind of knew going in that, you know, with bowling against Team Ottawa, we kind of figured the transition would be much more defined than what we've seen the first few weeks. And I was just a little bit behind that. And if I make a few more preemptive moves, then maybe that turns out differently. But at the same time, 1 and 2 with the middle of the lane getting as chopped up as it was, and I still shot 720. Like that feels like not maximum output, but a really, really good night. Is kind of how was my takeaway from it.
Yeah, I feel like most of the righties did handle the transition really well. Justin on their side had kind of a hook stop type of ball motion going on. It always looked like the ball was going to overhook, but then he just had that roll on it to where he just stopped at the pins and went straight. He had kind of a Chris Barnes thing going on.
Yeah, that was actually kind of fun to watch. So it was like, oh, that's going to get, nope, that's sitting there in the pocket instead of big boring.
And he did it consistently.
It kept doing that. It was actually kind of crazy.
Yeah, it kept doing it. It's not like because the first couple times I'm like, oh God, he got away with that one. But then he kept doing it, and it kept doing the same thing. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is intentional then, because he kept making the shots. So
and it kept working. I mean, he shot 670 on I'm going to be honest. I'm starting to think Justin might have been one of the better values of the entire draft.
And I mean, especially coming in at 190 something.
He throws it way better than that, and it was one of those situations where not many people are going to take a shot on him because nobody knew who he was.
Yeah, that's definitely a Jerry Jennings knowing what's going on pick. But that sort of thing happens every single time. They almost got away with the Mike Anderson thing too.
Yeah.
And this might have been a re-rate, but he also might have been a situation where he should have been re-rated. But at the same time, I feel like he's in that zone where he's recently gotten quite a bit better, and is just in that. This is just the year that they're gonna benefit from it.
Yeah,
happens for everybody. It's just the nature of what goes on.
No hard feelings, and don't hear me as trying to throw any shade towards Jerry or Justin or anybody else. It's just like, just watching him bowl is like, I could very easily see a path where he was genuinely a 190 last year. Yeah. And if I was going to put money on it, I'd say he finishes at 215 plus this year.
Yeah. And if somebody like that, if they actually put in the work, then I'm not saying nothing about nothing.
Oh yeah, no, that's just a tip of the cap. Good bowling. See you next week, dude. Like literally nothing more than that.
Jared, I think Jared was actually on the wrong end of the breaks too. I think he could have gone for 720 or 730. He had a little spot in the third game where he ran into some trouble several different frames, but then he had like the back 6 or something, and that's what happened with.
He had to save 220. Yeah, I remember that. And then I think he started in the wrong ball in game 1 too. Did he throw a shock on the dead fresh and then get into his blue coral pretty quick? I think maybe. Or am I making that up?
No, I can't remember. I know that he ended up throwing 2 different balls on 2 different lanes.
Yeah, because he pulled out his what's that green and silver
fatal
piece?
I think I remember him telling me that he got into the fatal too late.
Sorry,
is what he told me. But it's hard to look at 700 and nitpick. But at the same time, again, I do feel like he was on the wrong side of the brakes.
Yes. And then Jerry was actually doing a little bit of that same kind of fade hook stop trick. I think he was using whatever the new HK22 Quantum is, the shiny one, the Evo response, I think. And he was kind of fading it through the middle and splashing everything. And I mean,
it's the one that looks like the C system, the blue and red and whatever one.
Yeah. It's a pretty looking ball, but he was using it to great effect. And I mean, so I think, and I know I touched on this earlier, the one. And you and I talked about this a little bit on the show last week, I think, was kind of the idea of playing matchups a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And my thinking going into last week was when I've bowled match play leagues like this in the past, every time we've tried to get cute with, or, try to play the man-to-man more or worry too much about what the other team is going to be doing, it's always kind of ended up backfiring.
Mm-hmm.
And so my thought going into the night, and I think I shared this with you even before we bowled, was like, let's just kind of let it ride and whatever happens, happens. And then what I realized after, and this is an incredibly silly mistake on my part, but it is what it is every other time I bowled a match play league like this, it has not been scratch.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was kind of I didn't think about that correctly. And so that was a lesson learned. And I actually went back and looked because if we were going to truly optimize this, we would have had Noah and Jaden flipped in the 1 and 2 spots, and then you and I flipped in the 3 and 4 spots.
Mm-hmm.
And if we do that, that's 2 extra points.
Yeah,
it doesn't change. It actually doesn't change how any of the sets go. It's still we still end up chopping on scratch set on head-to-head sets 2-2.
Yeah,
with how it worked out. So it's just kind of 6 versus half dozen, but that's also I do kind of have to hold my hand up on that one and say that is a lesson learned. And that's one that I'm definitely we'll talk about it a little in a minute, but that's definitely something I'm going to be putting into practice this week as well.
Yeah. And this is again, we didn't expect the Matthew Lennox was actually a sub. We didn't expect.
Yes. We were expecting Chris Quidditch, however.
Yeah. And
Chris Q. Yeah.
Yeah. And he would have bowled quite a bit better than Matthew. Well, I didn't actually think that Matthew threw it bad. He just had 0 ball reaction.
Yeah.
He throws it pretty good, but he just had absolutely nothing the entire night. And I think that if Quidditch would have been there, it would have been a little different story. Now, I think that everything still goes kind of the same way it went because we beat him by 70 the first game. Yeah. He's not going to shoot. He might have shot 240, I guess. And then the last game, we beat him by 50. I don't really see. I mean,
no,
again,
we lost by 50. We lost by 50, game 3.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. If he shoots 120, then I'm here for it. That would help us out a little bit, but
And then we won by 30 something, so he would have had to shoot. Yeah, I mean, it's possible it could have been. He could have changed. He'd have had to shoot 720 though.
Yeah,
to significantly change or have to have a huge first game.
Yeah, a huge first game, or I mean, I don't see a world where Chris shoots 530 and we get total. Is the flip side of that.
Yeah.
It worked out. And I mean, 21-11, close fought match. We kind of knew it was going to be that. Expected it was going to be that going in. Yeah, it is what it is. But looking over, where'd my screen go? There we go. Okay, so looking over, I guess the standings. So we were in 4th and 4.5 out of 1st after week 2. And then jumping ahead to week 3, Russ's team is just absolutely crushing right now. I think they're 2nd high in the league in total pins.
Yeah, we kind of figured that was going to happen anyway.
Yeah, Russ's team is going to be terrifying this year. I'm not I really enjoy talking with Russ. I really enjoy bowling with Russ. I'm not looking forward to bowling against his team. That is not going to be a good time. We're going to have to bring our A game and hope they crap the bed, and we might have a chance. It's kind of what it feels like. So obviously we fell down a little bit in the standings. We dropped from 4th to 6th, but the standings are still fairly consolidated. Like we're on 55 points. Second is Jerry's team, who we just bowled, and they're at 65.5. So I mean, we're still very much right in it for a very solid result. With how the schedule pans out, I think this is going to be one of those schedules where I think we need to get all of our points early and then hang on. Because looking at the schedule is like we bowl essentially the last 6 weeks of both halves, we're bowling Murderers Row.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the more we can get all of our hits early from a points perspective and then kind of strap in and hold on for dear life at the end, I think is going to be kind of our path to success. But even with that, I mean, there's still a little bit of a spread. It's about just under 2 weeks from top to bottom, but there's still a lot of kind of jockeying around for position week to week.
Mm-hmm.
So even every little bit helps throughout the course of the season. So I mean, hopefully we don't miss those 2 points at some point, but if we do, then that's 2 points of a lesson learned for me. So is what it is.
But again, the note to make about that is that the lower average team gets to set the lineup. And so we could have changed the lineup and just hoped that they would have the higher average team can change the lineup, but the lower average team gets the final say on it. So if they don't like it, they can just switch it right back. Yeah. We could have switched it and they might have been okay with it and just let it go, but they were the lower average team. Yeah.
Well, watching how because Freed and Jerry were on the same team last year as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they tend to be one of those teams that just lets it ride no matter what.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think they would have changed anything, realistically speaking. And kind of, I guess that's actually a pretty good segue into previewing our matchup tonight or tomorrow night, I guess, because today's not Thursday. We were bowling against Mike Tennyson's team. He ended up actually with Angel on his team last year in the second half after his son, Mike III, had to drop out of the league. And so this is going to be another of those matchups. And I was talking with you about this earlier, where I think kind of playing the matchups a little more is going to be to our advantage. Mm-hmm. And this time we are the lower average team, so we get to dictate matchups, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is based off of book averages, too. I think if it was based off current season averages, I think you can see down there that we have the
current season, we're crushing them. Yeah,
quite a bit. So,
yes.
But again, the current season averages don't take over until 5 weeks in. And so once we bowl the 5th week, for example, there's a couple of like Austin's missed a week and Noah's missed a week. Their season averages won't kick in until they've bowled their 5th week. So they've got to have 15. You got to have 15 games in. So I guess that's probably the easier way to say after 15 games, your current season averages take over.
Yep. Yeah. So it's, looking at even just thinking about matchups, I'm probably going to flip Jaden and Noah. I will say I went back and looked at the recaps, and Tennyson's team is run with this exact order: Matt, Austin, Anderson, Tennyson for all 3 weeks.
And most of the time early in the season, people do just tend to leave them and they just say, well, we'll just catch up. We'll just figure it out later when this season averages keeps in or when this season averages start.
Yeah. But I think there is a little bit of a matchup game to be played here. Moving Jaden up to the leadoff spot, I think is actually going to be a pretty good benefit for us and kind of help relieve a little bit of mental pressure off of Noah as well, is my thought. So I might make that flip even moving forward past this week and just kind of see how that works out a little bit. So that'll flip the matchups. I think Noah has a good chance against Austin. I think Jaden will be able to take care of business against Matt. And then looking at the bottom half, I think you and Tennyson will actually match up pretty well, and then I should be able to take care of business against Anderson.
Yeah, I think just looking at the numbers there, obviously for 9 games, you have the higher average versus Mike, who has the higher average versus me, and then I have the higher average versus Tennyson for the 3 weeks so far. And it's another thing is typically the way that it goes for the 3rd highest average bowls lead off, the lowest average bowls second slot.
Yep.
third or the second high average bowls 3, and then the high average on the team bowls the anchor spot. That's typically how it goes. And, past, we can talk about this going forward, but I think that given Jaden's got like an 80 pin lead on me right now. So she might actually, if we flip her to the leadoff spot, again, Noah's just getting through what he's getting through right now, putting him in the second spot. He's going to be bowling lower average bowlers every week. And I think Jaden's probably, based on what she's bowling right now, she'd be one of the highest average leadoff bowlers in the league, period.
Yeah. I'm good with that. Yeah.
I think that's a good switch to make even next week too.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of my thought, is especially like she's seeing it well, she's throwing it well, and kind of put her in a position to take more advantage of what she's putting up and also relieve a little pressure off of Noah at the same time. Like,
yeah. And I actually think so 2 more weeks, if I don't make up those 80 pins in 2 more weeks, then I will be lead off.
Yeah.
After it, she will drop down to the 3 spot, because remember that the lowest 2 averages on the team have to bowl 1-2. Yep. And the top 2 averages have to bowl the 3-4 spots. That prevents the lower average team every week from really stacking those. Like, okay, well, this person's obviously not going to beat this person, so they're gonna lose all their points anyway. So we're just gonna put them against the team captain, and then I'll get the, they don't allow people to work the matchups. They do allow them a little bit of flexibility, again, with you can change 1, 2, and 3, 4.
There's some flexibility, but it's not, you can't totally game it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Pairwise, this is our first match off of the low end of the building in week 4, and we are on lanes 13 and 14 this week. Okay. I don't know if you can see that at all. Yep, there you go. So I have a spreadsheet that I keep on my phone that is essentially, I just use it for taking notes on pair-to-pair differences. And so 13 and 14 is one of those kind of weird pairs, and you can see it's one of the not super high-scoring pairs. I think the pair average is right at 210, same as what we were on last week on 1 and 2.
Yeah.
14 does tend to hook a lot more than 13, at least on the right side. So especially knowing that I think it's going to be a little more defined in the transition tonight, because Matt, Mace, Austin, and Tennyson are all usually going to be playing pretty straight on the right side. Mm-hmm. Mike Anderson, I think, hooks it more. He's a 2-hander, right?
No, he's actually a 1-hander. That's what everybody kept saying. He's a 2-hander, but no, he's 1-handed. Okay. He just really gets on it.
Fair enough.
But he tends to also play fairly straight-ish. Like, he's going to be deeper than the rest of his team, but not significantly.
Yeah. So this is another of the weeks where you're going to be alone on the left side. And so that'll hopefully make things a little more straightforward to manage for you. For myself, I think my theme is just going to be throw the black ball until it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Like my NV tour just continues to crush for me every time I throw it everywhere. So it's kind of if it ain't broke, why try to fix it type of thing. But yeah, so that's kind of our plan for matchups this week. Noah should be there. I don't think anybody's going to be missing on our side, so should work out pretty well for our team. Yeah, and I would almost rather bowl Tennyson's team on a pair that's going to be a little tricky, because I think that plays to our benefit a little bit more. And I do tend to like the high side of the league lanes, at least, more than the low side. Past history. So I think there's certainly a lot of potential for us to capitalize and get a big haul of points this week, but that requires us showing up and doing our part as well.
Yeah. Their team hits the pocket a lot, and when they get tricky, I think that they suffer a little bit more, kind of like what you were saying. If they're on the softer side, their scores are going to go up quite a bit. But if they're a little tricky, I think we'll have the advantage in that situation.
Yep, I'd agree with that. Strategically, equipment-wise, anything major changing for you this week? You did not get the new Eternity, the Pi. Correct?
No.
Okay.
No, so what I think, especially just recently, I've got the Summit back out, and I've figured out what to do with that ball now.
Throw it until it doesn't work. That's the
answer. I think it just needs to be my kind of, and the gold label's kind of in there too, but I think the Summit's even a notch up. If it's just remotely close, because I didn't buy into there's a lot of marketing that goes on with bowling balls, and I didn't buy into the whole AI outer core. It's like, okay, well, it makes the core a little bit stronger, it changes the numbers, but they kept saying, oh, it carries better, it carries the off hits better. And I'm like, whatever. That's just like dynamic core. USB-C has a limit on how hard a ball can hit. And so saying, oh yeah, we made it hit harder. It's like, well, it's still within the same range. The USB-C puts a cap on it. They can only make it hit so hard. And, hitting too hard makes the pins go up. You want them low and going side to side. You don't want a ball hitting so hard that it just shoots pins up into the rafters. That doesn't knock the pins down. But it carried the 300 for me last Friday, and then it almost carried another 300 for me in pre-bowling on Sunday for this coming Friday, and 730 something, 70 something the last couple, and it's my first couple 700s this year, and significantly better than I've had some decent. I've had 680, 670 this year, but that's not. That's kind of scrapping it together. And the Summit literally carries more of the off hits. There's so many of them. I thought, well, that's going to be a flat 7, or that's not going to make it back, or that's not going to carry the opposite corner, because I leave all kinds of 10 pins. I don't think I've left like a mixer 10. Normally I have 2, 3, 4 of those. And I don't think I've left.
And that's a Royal Crest hit, which I don't know if those of y'all that watched my streams over on my channel from Summer Doubles, opposite side corners are an incredibly common hit at Royal Crest. I'd 7-pin more at Royal Crest than almost any other building on the planet.
Yeah, and it's
something about how pins move around. I don't understand it.
It just doesn't seem. It seems like if you hit the mixer zone, you've got to hit awful hard. The ball has to be driving into. It can't really be like kind of one of those limping. If it gets there too late, that it's just flat and that pin stands every time.
If you're gonna hit mixer, you need to be hitting mixer with your ball hooking 3 feet early, not 3 feet late.
Yeah,
because if you hit mixer and 3 feet late, odds are very high you're gonna 7-pin.
But the jury's still out on it.
The shape is one. Like, I think watching it kind of from an outside perspective, I think as you've gotten some more games on your Summit, I think that's helped it tame down a little more.
Yeah,
and that's getting like, even ignoring the AI part of the equation, I just think the shot shape. Hi, Meestles.
Happiness, Meestle.
Doggy. I think just the general shot shape is one that has a ton of utility. Like, it's kind of one of those clean-ish and still controlled, but enough shell to get through it. Like, same. I see that shiny Summit for you as kind of conceptually similar to, like, if I were to take a lane shined, not super strong layout Reality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's almost that same type of utility that you get out of that ball.
Yeah.
That, like, bigger, stable, rolly ball with some lane shine on it. And still a pretty good size core shell on top of it. So I think the metagame of bowling as a whole is shifting a little more in that direction. And I think the Summit is one that actually is capturing that idea very, very well for you. And get it dialed in. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to use.
Yeah, quick ball question. If the AI has better carry, why is it not on any other ball yet? Well, it just debuted on the Summit. That's the first ball that they used it on. So, I would imagine. Plus, at the same time, it does make the core numbers stronger. So they took the same core that was in the Supersonic and the Sonic, and they put this around it, and so it dropped the RG a couple points. And so other cores they may not necessarily want. I mean, they may want the better carry, but it may not fit with certain balls. I mean, certain balls, if they're too sharp or too smooth or whatever, I don't know. I think it's going to be a ball to ball thing. Like, they don't have dynamic core on every ball.
Yeah.
I think that with some of them, it's just not going to look right. Like, I can't imagine this core on like an RSTX2 that just, I don't know. I'd have to see it, but I would imagine that. But I mean, not to turn this into a bowling ball screen, but Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there were several times on Friday night when I thought, okay, well, that's going to be a flat 7, or it's just hitting too weak to kick out that opposite 10, that opposite corner, and it got it out. So I mean, it's only 2 sets so far, but so far, and there's somebody else told me, it's like, yeah, I see all the up 10 dumpers, like the old guys are just killing it with it. They're spraying it all over the place, but it just knocks the pins down. So it seems to actually be somewhat of a thing. It might have just catfished me for a couple weeks and got me to praise it, and then it'll
let's hope not.
Yeah, it'll pull the full catfish. But
yeah,
anyway, talk about your equipment stuff a little bit. You kind of came to a realization here recently too.
I've come to a lot of realizations. So which one are you talking about?
And throw the black ball.
Oh yeah, throw the black ball. Sorry. Yeah, I mean it's pretty simple. I was even talking with Russell about this a little bit after league last week. It's like it just seems to continue to work on everything, and it's like, sure, I could try and get fancy, and I might have a better look for 5 frames with something else, but my top speed looked incredible in practice last week. Absolutely slammed 4 racks straight back, and then the lanes transitioned a little, and then transition caught up to me, and it was gone. And I was like, thumb it a little bit, 9-pin, okay, move, ace 1, 9-pin, and the second 9-pin was just nowhere remotely close to striking.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, it's one of those things where it's just kind of like, I just need to throw the ball that is proven to always work.
Mm-hmm.
If that doesn't work, and if I can't find anything, then I look at other stuff. But until that genuinely does not work, or it's like punishing me, or I just can't get any hits, and I think there are hits to be had with other stuff, it's just keep it simple. Because I mean, I was throwing the black ball from left of 5th arrow and still striking comfortably in game 3 last week. So it's if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a bunch of utility for you. It usually seems to be in play, and I've done that before too with balls that are like, well, I know this is a known quantity. If nothing else works, this is going to work. But it's like I want to be abstract about it and try. Oh, I want to throw something else this week.
Yeah,
and then I even just realistically saying, okay, well, I know what this ball does. Let me get these other balls out and practice and take a look at them, and then you end up, well, that looks pretty good. I'll actually start with that.
That's exactly what happened last week to me with the top speed.
Yeah,
like,
that happens.
Oh, the top speed looks great, and whoopsie doozles.
Mm-hmm.
So I might not put anything else on the rack to start in practice next week.
Yeah, and this is something that Rick Benoit says too, is, like, save practice for practice. Once the lights turn on, it's your job to score. It doesn't matter how bad it is, even, or if you're still doing bad habits or whatever. If the pins are falling down, that's what you do in a scoring situation. You can go practice later. You can go take looks at balls later. You can do this, that, or the other. If it's knocking the pins down, keep throwing it.
Yep. And that loops back to kind of a counterpoint to, I think, something you and I were talking about last week was, or I think we talked about this after Thursday last week, is the idea of when do you keep doing what you're doing versus when do you pull the plug and make the big change to something else. Is kind of minimizing the nickel and dime type situations. And I think that's what you said from Rick is like, that's a good way to put it. And that drives a lot of my in the moment decision making is theoretically. I mean, even when we were pre-bowling on Sunday, I went strike 3-4-6, 4-6, 4-8-10.
Mm-hmm.
I had like 45 in the 4th.
Yeah.
It was not good. And I got fooled at the end of practice because we were on a tricky pair that I don't bowl on very much. And it was like I was throwing my Widow hybrid, and I'm like, could I try and make this work? Maybe. But and they weren't great shots, but they weren't like atrocious shots that went split.
Yeah.
I'm just like, screw this. I'm just going to throw something that makes it easier. And ball change, and I think I threw like 18 out of the next 20 or something like that.
Yeah.
So, good ball change, but still that kind of like, there's only one goal, and that is knock pins down. And if someone else is doing a better job than you of knocking pins down, then time to figure out how you can catch up to them in whatever way kind of fits within your skill set. So that's my ultimate goal. But I think just kind of try to keep my decision making really simple, especially for this coming week. I think it's going to be really important.
Yep.
Yeah, equipment wise, it kind of depends on. I've got a bunch of stuff on the way. I'm not sure when it's going to actually get here, or if it does get here, if I'll have time to drill any of it. But there's kind of a couple different places that I could potentially go with my bag. My plan at the moment is to roll out with the same setup I took last week, which is top speed, NV Tour, my pin down Widow hybrid, Ocean Vibe, and a spare ball. With that said, I do have a high speed and an NV Tour Pearl on the way. If those make it, then I will probably take both of those instead of the top speed and the Widow hybrid, is my guess. Just to and that's still staying within that overall kind of archetype, I guess, or kind of the bag building philosophy that I've been using this year of big chungus, tumbly ball, benchmark ball, something a little cleaner and smooth, and then a weak ball for if they get crispy.
Mm-hmm.
And staying within that kind of overall build, I think has worked out very well for me so far, barring massive operator issues. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I might make a couple tweaks within that, depending on whether or not anything is able to get drilled, which not looking likely at this point, but in the off chance, that's kind of where I'm going. So, and I think for you, it's just going to be summit until it doesn't work, which us getting off of the low end, I think is going to be good for you as well.
Yeah, I think they hook a little bit more on the low end too. So I think once we get down to the higher ends, we ought to be okay. And I have to keep remembering that on the left side, I don't need to plan a bag for something strong, something to step down, something to step down, something to step down. I mean, realistically, if they're too dry for me to even throw my gold label, I'm just not going to be doing well that night anyway.
Yeah.
So I might throw something in there if they get really stupid, like a Zen-U or something, just a I'm going to take 5 balls, but it's just going to be Summit Gold Label the vast majority of the time. And then I'll take a couple of bailout balls. I'll take something like a clone if I just need the back ends to be a little bit slower. But the Summit kind of takes care of that.
The clone I almost see as a shape offset to the Summit. So I could definitely see some utility there. So I mean,
it's got a little bit cleaner. It's got a little bit cleaner cover, and it's got a little bit more torque down lane. And so, if the Summit's close, but it's not quite it, and the Gold Label's too clean. So I think Gold Label, Summit, and Clone are just going to be in the main bag, period. And then the last ball will be something, and then plastic.
Something in case the fecal matter truly does hit the oscillator, so to speak. Yeah.
Oh. Jonathan Tiffany says, forgot to comment. I got here about 10 minutes ago. I found the Mike Medlin Mike Medlin on league secretary, so I've been following along. Yeah, that's another thing. If you guys can't see what's on the screen here and you want to follow along, you can either go to wayneandlarrys.com and go into the leagues, and you can pull up league secretary that way, or if you just go to league secretary period and search for the league, you should be able to find it. So if you want to follow along or check and see how we're doing or whatever else, James just dropped the link in the chat there. So if you want to take a look and see what the whole league is doing, see what everything kind of looks like. I know that we were doing these specific team to team matchups, but if you just want to check out the pace of the league or see what everybody else is scoring, or just get ideas about, because they do keep track of all these different things. We keep track of individual points throughout the year as well as team points. So a lot of different metrics and a lot of different stuff that they track. And so I have actually had a couple people that saw when we were talking about it earlier. And then a couple people have actually sent me stuff and said, hey, I actually was able to get a draft league going here. And you guys talking about it really helped us figure out the rules and what we should do and stuff like that. And so looking at the recaps should even be a little bit more help.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, having all this stuff online is, excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat for some reason. Here's one number. That's the number I want to highlight. I think you can see no, you can't see it on screen. Dang it. Can I get it over there? No, I can't. League average, 213. That's freaking wild.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a huge indicator of part of why this league is so awesome. That's the league average.
Yeah.
And scoring pace doesn't even feel super high so far at the start of this year,
Yeah, yeah. It feels like it's actually down a little bit.
Yeah, it feels a little slower than it was for a lot of last year. So I mean, that's kind of like being in that type of an environment where it's that competitive is honestly pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, should be a fun time. Gonna have a bunch of folks in town because we obviously have Casey Open this weekend, so we'll have a bunch of folks getting into town tonight and tomorrow for that. And so there will be a bunch of people there hanging out with us while we're bowling during Scratch League. So that'll be pretty fun as well.
Yeah.
All right. Obviously, got all the shenanigans this weekend. Got the mega stream on Friday night here on your channel, Luke. And then I need to actually get this scheduled, but I will be live streaming both team event double singles on Saturday at 1 p.m. Central. And then we're bowling team event at 9 a.m. on Sunday Central Time.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those will be over on my channel. So keep an eye out for those as well. But should be a fun weekend.
All right. Well, these dingoes want to go outside or something. You go outside. So, and we've been rambling on for long enough anyway. So,
yes, more than long enough. That's what we do, honestly. So.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for watching. Once again, check the description. We got a bunch of stuff down there, discount codes and links and whatnot. Again, if you want to take a look at the league sheet, that's in the chat here. And yeah, we bowl tomorrow night. Normally we do this on Thursday, but we're bowling tomorrow night. I know, Buck. But yeah, we'll be back next Thursday at noon again. I think everything's all
should be back to normal next week.
So yeah, we'll be back normal time next week.
Normal bat time, same bat channel.
Yep. So
until then.
Yep. I would think the one last point, I would think that we probably take 20 for if Tennyson, if both teams continue to bowl like we're bowling, I would say that we take 20 plus. We take 20 to 25 points, I think.
I'd agree with that.
So
yeah. We shall see what happens.
Yeah. So all right. Thanks everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Adios.